Hey everyone. So I grew up my entire life believing that one of the biggest Torah values is not refraining from the world, but actually going out, making an impact, making a difference, getting yourself dirty, l'taken olam b'malchut shakai, to make the world a better place. And this seems like the kind of thing that would be a Torah value, until you actually open up the Torah. Starting in last week's Parshat, in Parshat Kedusha, the Torah tells us Kedoshim Yiyu, we have an obligation to be holy, and the Torah tells us how we're supposed to be holy. The way the Midrash explains this line, Kedoshim Yiyu, this command to be holy is Kedoshim Yiyu, Prushim Yiyu. That the way to be holy is to become parush, is to become separate, to remove yourself from the world. Weird. But it gets even more intense as we get to this week's Parshat, to Parshat's Emor. First, we speak about the Kohanim, who are the next level up of Kedusha, and how is their Kedusha, their holiness, manifested? They have restrictions about whom they can marry, and about the kind of relatives they could become impure for, they could become tamei for when those relatives pass away. They're even more removed from the world. And the next level up of Kedusha is the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol has even more restrictions about whom he can marry and about the kind of relatives he could become, the kind of people he could become tamei for. He's even more removed from the world. And it seems to be that the more holy you are, the more kadosh you are, then the more removed you are from the world, not the more involved you are in the world. So we go back to our original question. Is it really a Torah value to be involved in the world? So it's a bit of a ridiculous question. Think about our people for centuries. Right, the ideas of Olam Chesed Yibaneh, and that Gemilut Chasadim is one of the three principles on which the world is sustained. You open up Nevi'im Achronim, and the prophets are ranting all the time about how we're supposed to spread Tzedek u'Mishpat, all these values of justice and righteousness, to the rest of the world. So clearly, one of the biggest pillars of our faith is not just remaining in our small bubble, but going out and making an impact on the world. But maybe what this idea of the Kohanim and these levels of Kedusha is teaching us is the way we're supposed to go out and make an impact on the world. Right? Because the Torah believes that there is a hierarchy. We aren't a religion that necessarily believes in equality. Right? Not everyone has the same obligations, not everyone has the same rules. And the way Judaism believes the entire world is set up is we have the whole world, and then the next level up is Am Yisrael, the next level up is the Kohanim, the highest level is the Kohen Gadol. Right, we believe that each level up is a role model to the tier right below them. And the way that these role models affect and impact and make an influence on the level right below them is not necessarily by going out, getting on their hands and knees and becoming dirty. But rather the way each tier makes an impact on the level below them is by setting an example, by living a life that is kadosh, by living a life that is holy, and by presenting themselves in a way that is extremely presentable. Essentially to misquote or to paraphrase Rabbi Sachs, people respect people who respect themselves. And if you're the kind of person who understands your role and acts that way, that's how you're going to make the biggest impact on those below you. But if you're the kind of person who degrades yourself, kind of brings yourself down and has no self-respect just because you feel that in order to be a role model, you have to be relatable and you have to be cool, you're not going to make the biggest impact. Because people aren't going to respect you if you don't even respect yourself. You look throughout the people who have made the biggest impact on Judaism throughout the centuries. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was not cool. To the Rambam, I didn't know him, but I'm assuming he wasn't cool. All the way to modern times, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Rabbi Sachs. Right? With all due respect, these figures weren't cool. What made them so great, what gave them the ability to make the biggest impact, was not that they pretended to be cool and relatable and all hip. What made these figures able to have the biggest impact on the world was that they respected themselves. They understood the values that they were trying to portray, and they lived with those values, that they held themselves to a really high standard. Judaism believes in getting involved in the world, but the way we do that is by acting kadosh, by acting holy, by abstaining from things that aren't necessarily appropriate for someone at your level. And even though you're not directly going to be involved with some of these things, people who are involved with these things, they're going to see you abstaining from them, they're going to notice you, and they're going to make an impact. If you're the kind of person who speaks in a way that's respectful and eats in a way that's respectful and only talks about things that are respectful, then when other people are around you, they're going to start acting the same way because they respect you because you respect yourself. And when we think about how we make the biggest impact on the world, the Torah in this week's Parsha, by teaching us about what Kedusha is, by teaching us about the Kohanim and the Kohen Gadol. The Torah is telling us that if you want to make the biggest impact, you don't have to be stark and relatable. You don't have to try to do cruel kiruv. You just have to live a life of Kedusha. Live a life where you have value, and you stand by those values, and those values guide every single moment of your life in the way you talk, the way you act, the way you think. And even if you're not going to be directly involved with people, people are going to notice you. And that's the way you're going to make the biggest impact on the entire world. So live a life of Kedusha. Stay away from things that aren't necessarily appropriate for someone on your level. And trust me, that's going to make so much more of an impact than if you pretend to get down on your hands and knees and pretend to be cool. Have a good Shabbos. Bye-bye.